Hey YouTube, welcome to the Comic Book Community 411. And my special guest this week is Phil from Philtastic Comic and Arts.
Hey,
Phil,
Brian.
welcome to the show. How's it going?
Good, good, good. How about yourself?
Oh, not bad. I appreciate you coming on. So before we get into the questions, why don't you just give me a little, give us a little intro on yourself and your channel?
Okay. I've been a collector since I'm 14 years old. I'm 43 now. So I feel like I have a little bit of perspective. And my YouTube channel is just, I look at it just a fun place where we could talk about comics, art, film, and anything in between, really. Anything I feel like talking about, I guess. I try not to go a negative route or go, you have to go out and buy this book right away because it's going to be worth $1 million tomorrow kind of route. I just like to have fun with it, and I hope people have fun watching it.
Oh, good. I know I do. I enjoy your channel. It definitely, great discussion. And kind of thought provoking. You're kind of throwing some topics out there that that not a lot of channels are discussing. So it's definitely enjoy watching your channel.
Thank you. It's good to hear it. It's just good to know that I'm not just a guy in my basement speaking to myself.
Yes, I think that's every one of our fears is that nobody's listening. All right, so why don't we jump into the questions? So, and you mentioned, so how did you get into comic book collecting? You mentioned, you started around 14, but
Yeah, yeah.
how, what's the history?
Well, it's kind of a slow, curvy path, I guess you could say, into collecting. The first comic I bought, I think I was about maybe 7 or 8 years old. My family used to vacation down in Wildwood, New Jersey every summer. My godparents used to have a motel there. And I remember going into just like a corner store with my parents, and they said, "Yeah, go buy a comic or something to read." It was like a rainy day. And I remember I had a choice of 4 comics. I don't know how much they were at the time, but I remember, just to give you a time frame, like the first issue of Excalibur was on the rack. I
Okay.
wound up getting the four issue Brute Force series, and still have those to this day. That being said, I didn't run right into comics. I actually, when I went back home, started collecting the Marvel Universe cards. It was Series 1 at the time. I forgot who made them. I'm sure YouTube will tell us. Um, and again, just like I knew these characters, but I didn't know the comics. So I finally started actually regularly going to a comic book store when I discovered the Ninja Turtles. And I would pester my mom to take me to, I think it was Heroes World at Livingston Mall, to get Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Adventures, and then even the Mirage stuff that I probably shouldn't have been reading that age. And then at some point, yeah, when I was about 14 years old, I think that's when Death of Superman was starting. A comic book store opened in my town, right across from my middle school, and I think I had stopped Turtles at that point and just kind of gravitated more towards X-Men and just a couple things, Batman, but X-Men and Wolverine was always my main focus. And from there, I stopped when I went to college, returned to it in 2001 with a vengeance, and here I am today.
All right. Yeah, I think a lot of us go through that if we've collected, early teenage years, that we go through that period where whether it's social life or college or working, we kind of lose touch with it for a little while, and then eventually come back.
Yeah.
um yeah, I mean, I know that was with I stepped away for like 30 years before I came back. So
Uh,
um so how did you make the leap? So collecting, but then how did you make a leap to say, okay, I'm going to start a YouTube channel and and start put videos out there?
Mostly boredom. The pandemic hit. Um, we found ourselves at home. I started working from home March of 19. I guess that was 19, or 19 or 20, whenever the pandemic started.
I think
And
20. Yeah.
yeah, we kind of started running out of things to watch. There's only so much Netflix can take you, I guess. And we are just fooling around on YouTube one day. I probably was looking to figure out how to do some kind of home repair, and comic book channels just started popping up. And I remember watching Reggie at first and being like, all right, what is this bodybuilder going to tell me about comics? I don't know. And then I really started watching more of Matt Wood's comics. I think most people I should say, are probably familiar with Matt Woods. And I just kept watching more and more of this. And I said to my wife, I really want to try to do this. And I figured, why not? I'll do a couple videos. If nobody watches, then I could at least say I tried it. And I figured as long as it's fun, I'll keep doing it.
Okay. I think, yeah. And that was a similar experience for me. Same thing. I started my channel. I actually got back into collecting during the pandemic and then started the channel. And the same thing, kind of stumbled on comic book channels. I was actually, the way I got back in was I had some books that I had from the 80s, and I started to see what they were worth, and I started to sell some of my books. And one of the first things I needed to know how to do was how to ship it, because I wasn't sure how to pack it correctly without it, getting, I didn't want it to get damaged, obviously. So I went to YouTube to, typed in how to ship a comic book and found some information. But then also, I think Reggie Collects was, I think, one of the first channels I found. And I was a little intrigued because I'm like, wait a minute, he's a bodybuilder, but he collects comics, and like, wasn't sure what his channel was all about. But then it led me down the rabbit hole of, a bunch of other channels, and realized how big, the community was. And then, a couple months later said, oh, okay, I think I can do this. So, then started the channel. So,
yeah, I was always kind of curious if we were to try to map out basically where all the different YouTube channels were influenced from, would it look more like a family tree, or just kind of be all over the place? Just because I hear so many people say, oh, yeah, Reggie. And I think part of that is that just the material he puts out is generally just so positive and welcoming. It's not, you could throw a stick on the internet and run into somebody complaining about something. But
yes.
When you find a channel like that, or like Matt, or your channel, so many of our channels, where you can say, look, I don't care for this, but that's okay if you like it. That's almost refreshing in a sense.
Yeah, no, and I found some of the, bigger channels, Gem Mint, Comics with Bueller, after I discovered Reggie, and similar, like, wow, look at, these guys are, very positive, seem like they're having fun. That was one of the things that struck me with Reggie's channel was it looked like he was having, fun delivering information, and collecting. So, yeah, that's kind of what drew me in, initially. So what about a character? I know you said you're a big X-Men Wolverine fan, but what about a comic book or character? If you had creative control where you could, rewrite or reboot, who would you tackle?
This is a character I guarantee you're probably going to know this character, because I know you're a Spider-Man fan, but I don't think you're expecting this. And there's going to be at least a couple people here who are going to stop and say, all right, let me Google this to see what this kid's talking about. To backtrack a little bit, during the pandemic, I started taking a couple online classes at the Joe Kubert School. And the ones I took were in script writing with Amy Chu, and how to pitch with Dan DiDio. And a script I kind of wrote, a short script. Unfortunately, I didn't have the foresight to use an original character, so I couldn't sell this, of course, or anything like that. That I actually took that script and went into Dan DiDio's class, and he started it by saying, why would I care about this character? To, okay, I have to read about this. I think Marvel should take the Spider-Man, sometimes villain, sometimes hero, Cardiac, to the next level. I think he's a character who is really poised to be a different type of Iron Man almost. He's got so many different kind of facets. And look, I know that both Marvel and DC are trying to put out more comics that are more minority based. They have an existing character here with a strong background. The guy's empathetic. He's a brilliant doctor. And I always compare him to Iron Man because I feel like his intelligence is on the same level almost.
Okay.
It's just where Iron Man said, okay, well, I'm going to do this. Cardiac said, well, I'm going to be a vigilante. I don't care as long as I get this solved. And I honestly think if Marvel even invested just like a short limited series, you've got a great launching point for a potential film, I guess, as long as Sony doesn't screw it up. And just to go back and really reignite a great character. To be honest with you, I think he's a character who would get a lot more attention if, well, number one, if his costume had a nose, and number two, if he just wasn't introduced at the same time Carnage was. That, I think, was his biggest downfall.
Okay. That's interesting. Yeah, I haven't, usually people will, when they answer that question, they'll kind of tackle, a hero, and maybe somebody, who storyline hasn't been, doing well, like Spider-Man. There's been some, complaints about his storyline over the last, couple of years. But that's interesting to take that character and that's the other thing too. I think both Marvel and DC have such a deep, inventory of characters that there are so many characters that kind of get, overlooked or lost in the shuffle.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the idea. Somebody else had mentioned about, a character and maybe just like you said, giving them a 4-issue, 6-issue run to see if they, can kind of catch on, or if the reading audience would be interested in them. So,
Definitely,
without having to commit to some big series or an ongoing series, a mini series could kind of propel some of these not well known characters. So
yeah.
Interesting. All right.
Mm-hmm.
What about? So either collecting or the community, what's one negative or one thing that you don't really like about, like I said, either collecting or the YouTube comic book community?
The biggest peeve I have, and both Marvel and DC are guilty of this. When they put out a variant cover for like kind of like a flavor of the month cause, okay, and it's not. I don't have any issues with the cause or anything. I think that it's important that we celebrate things like Black History Month, Asian Pacific Month. I think it's very important that we celebrate that. The only problem that I have is if you're going to sell me a book celebrating Pride Month on the cover, how about take some of those profits and put it towards one of those charities? Because really, then you're just using that charity as an excuse to make more money. And the ironic part is, I watch a lot of different channels on YouTube right now. One of the channels that we watch that's not comic book related, Ordinary Adventures. They go to Disney World and different theme parks, and Disney is their main thing. They pointed out this past month they went to Star Wars for like the 50th time this year. And they always show off the new merchandise, and they say, yeah, now they have these big signs up that whenever you buy a Disney Pride shirt, a portion goes towards a Pride-related charity. Okay, Disney owns Marvel. How about you guys do the same?
Right. Yeah, that's a good idea. And, the variant covers, there's so many. And, I agree, right? Whether it's tying into some history from Marvel,
Mm-hmm.
Spider-Man, 60th anniversary, or if, like you said, Pride Month, some of the different causes, that would be smart, I think, to be able to do that. Like you said, and so it's not just a money-making avenue for
Exactly.
them.
Yeah.
They're giving back. Yeah,
And
that's a good idea.
for the record, I'll say this: I did email both Marvel and DC just to say, "Hey, are you guys donating anything?" And I have yet to get a response. Though I didn't really
Yeah,
think I would, but
yeah. I wouldn't expect that you would.
yeah.
Okay, so what about, I know you're, a new dad, your son, and so how has fatherhood changed the way you're collecting, or, just reading and collecting in general?
Oh, um, first and foremost, the pull list is significantly pulled back. I mean that's a given. Just look, diapers are expensive. Formula is expensive. You know, it's a whole different game. And I find myself, because now space is an issue. I have a big collection I've been trying to sort through for a while. Hopefully we're almost there. It's more like, okay, do I need to get this book in a physical copy, or can I wait a couple months until it's available online? So really, besides that too, I would just say time as well. I don't go to the LCS as often as I had been going. Right now, I'm going to go tomorrow, knock on wood, and I haven't been there in about almost 2 months, I'm going to say.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Just because it's just so much running around, different appointments and whatnot, and just your energy at the end of the day. It's kind of funny. Like, one thing I kind of picked up on early, to me, having an infant, having a child, is like basically write a to-do list with 5 things on it, and just know by the end of the day, maybe you'll get 2 of those things done. You're lucky if you get 2 of those things done. But it's all 100% worth it, of course. And also, I think it kind of has helped me more kind of focus on what I like to read. And by that, I mean, you're not chasing the next big event. You're not chasing the hot issue or whatnot. I will pick up a comic, and if it's worth any more than cover, I'm going to say to myself, well, is this either something that's important to my collection, something I'm trying to chase or fill in, or is it something that, maybe my son will be interested in years, or maybe something that might be important enough for them to sell or something in years. It's almost kind of like, I know that at this point, my collection is going to be at some point his collection. And of course, if he has any brothers and sisters, their collection.
Yeah, no, I mean, so I have 3 kids, and they're all older. My youngest is in his sophomore year of college. So I certainly have a lot more free time than when they were, younger. So certainly can relate to that. And our first 2 were twins. So you
Oh,
talk
wow.
about sticker shock. I went to the store for the kids came home. Everything was good. We had, some formula and diapers from the hospital, and, gifts from family and friends. But I remember very vividly going to the, store for the first time to pick up, diapers, wipes, and formula for twins, having to buy a little bit more than you would, for just one child. And I was in sticker shock. Like, I came home and, told my wife, like, we need to make some changes in how we're spending money, because if we're going to have to buy, formula, diapers, and wipes, every 2 weeks or whatever it was, so we're going to spend a lot of money,
Yeah.
on these kids.
And
So
I have to give a huge thanks, of course, to all of our relatives and whatnot who gave us Bye Bye Baby gift cards and whatnot, because those have been just great when coming to get diapers and wipes. Formula, I mean, look, been a nationwide shortage. There's been a shortage actually a lot longer than it's been reported on. It's just gotten a lot harder now that everybody knows about it. And I mean, I could tell you, the week before last, I ordered formula I had to order it from Canada.
oh
And
wow,
because of the international shipping and everything, it wound up costing me about $50 more than if I were able to just go down and pick it up from the store.
right,
But at the end of the day, this is the only thing he's eating right now. So I
right,
kind of need it.
right. Yeah, you don't really have much of a choice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's hope that works itself out soon. I mean, maybe the news that it's a little bit highlighted now, that it will, there'll be a solution for it, shortly.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You know what? I am seeing more and more on the shelves now. Costco, knock on wood, has been a godsend. And my parents and my in-laws just kind of finding stuff. It's like, hey, I was at ShopRite. I just picked this up. Great. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, certainly would have to put everybody on high alert, right? To help out if they spot it. Right.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
yeah. Okay. So we got through pretty quickly all of the questions that I had, but the final question is just a random question. So I have a list of 50 questions. So just give me a number 1 through 50, and wherever we land, that'll be your last question.
I got to go with lucky number 26.
26. All right. If you could live in a movie, what would it be and why?
Ooh, wow! I didn't prepare for that one. If I could live in a movie, hmm. I don't know. See, all the movies I like, they're kind of very harrowing and whatnot. So I would probably want something calm. Huh.
Yeah, no Terminator or
No.
Predator.
Well, look, if I could live in there and it's like happening like on the other side of the city or something, I guess that's probably fine. Maybe it's better to say something like a Last Action Hero, only because that way you can go into different movies. There's like a
Yeah.
little
Okay.
loophole there. So yeah, I'll stick with that one.
All right. I like that one. I actually liked that movie back at, when it first came out. I think I saw that in the theater. And actually, I know it was not a big critic hit, but I actually liked Last Action Hero.
I think it's one of those ones that it was. I remember seeing it too in the theater. It was just kind of. I don't want to say ahead of its time, but I think the concepts of that kind of fourth wall breaking just wasn't there yet, or wasn't really seen as much.
Right. Yeah, I don't know if your general audience enjoys that style, that type, right?
Yeah. I mean, that
All
kind of
right.
came out at a weird time too. I remember, I think around that time, I think it was like in eighth grade or something. I used to love watching Hudson Hawk, and then when I went to ninth grade, I realized if he was such a good thief, why didn't he just steal a watch instead of sing?
I'm trying to think if I saw Hudson Hawk, if that was a movie theater movie. I don't think it was because, you know, around that time, Bruce Willis he was a big star, so.
Yeah, I think that was like the beginning of the really he made this type of
Yeah.
era.
Oh, that's funny. All right. Well, we've gotten through all of the questions that I had. Anything else that you want to, mention about yourself, about your channel? Anything coming up on your channel?
Coming up. Well, it's probably going to be out by the time everybody sees this, but I am going to be doing my first interview with an actual writer coming up. I'm
Oh,
doing
nice.
that next week, so that'll be out. Actually, if I probably time it out right, it'll probably out the same week that this comes out.
Okay.
Other than that, I'll just take this opportunity to say hi to my beautiful wife, who's going to be watching this, of course, and to my friends at my LCS that I frequent, Fat Moose Comics.
Great. And links are down below in the description for both Phil's channel, YouTube channel, and Instagram. So definitely, if you're not familiar with him, please go check him out. And you do host a Saturday morning show, live show usually. I know I have a live show at 10 a.m. and you usually come on right after that around 11. So definitely, if you're not familiar with Phil, check out his live show Saturdays, usually around 11 a.m. So.
Yeah, come have breakfast with Brian, and then indigestion with me.
So, well, Phil, thanks very much. It's great to chat with other community members and get to know them a little bit better. And I really appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate you having me.
All right. Well, like I said, links are down below. Please go check out Phil's channel, and we will. Again, thanks, Phil, and we'll see you guys soon.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks.